Hello Movie Mavens, welcome back to another video on the B Movies channel. My name is Bailey and I put the B in movies. Hello everyone, I hope you're having a good week. I just found out I have a kidney infection, so living the dream. But other than that, I'm doing a-okay. I hope you're having a wonderful week. And I will say up top, we're recording a couple days earlier than I usually do, so I am sure the second that I upload and schedule this video, there are going to be a million updates from a million different series. I've already accepted that in my heart, so if there's something that I missed, just know that I probably just recorded before it came out. But we do have some updates for all of you today. We have a good deep dive that I'm excited about, and I have a couple little reviews. I had a lackluster double feature on Sunday, and I want to chat about it a little bit. So, let's go ahead and dive into the Bailey Babbles for this episode, which we basically just, the whole first 5 to 10 minutes is just Bailey Babbles. But I want to talk about, and I know I can't be the only one, but do you ever have those moments when you're like, I should not be allowed to have access to the internet? Well, I was watching Across the Universe, because if you don't know, I'm doing a movie a day challenge where I watch a movie every single day of the year and do a little write-up on my personal Instagram. And so I was watching Across the Universe, and I started Googling, like, how tall Jim Sturgis is, his entire filmography, what happened to Jim Sturgis, because I feel like he had, like, this big moment, right, with, like, Across the Universe in 21 and, like, several movies back to back, and then he just kind of fell off my radar, and so I was just, like, in this moment, I was like, this is why I should not be allowed to have the internet, because I'm like, I will Google how tall people are, the second they're on there, I will go down a rabbit hole of their filmography, and I will end up at a place that I'm like, I don't know how I got here, like, I don't know how I got to this movie or this music video, and it's just very Portlandia content overload. And so yeah, I had one of those moments the other day where I was like, I don't know if I should be allowed access to the internet. So that's where I'm there. And that also leads me into, you can expect a piece about my celebrity crushes soon. Jim Sturgis is not on the list, but if you'd asked me in my early 20s, the answer to that question would be very different. But this spurred into an idea for a piece, and so you can expect out here in the next couple weeks. I did list all of my celebrity crushes for all of you, so that you can judge, mock, agree, cry, laugh, whatever. So yeah. So TLDR, I hope I'm not alone in that I start Googling everything about a person anytime I watch a movie, and sometimes people should just take my phone away from me. The next thing that I want to talk about in Bailey Babbles really quick, because this is not a review, this is just a rant. So, I will openly admit, I've not read any of I believe it's Leanne Moriarty is how you pronounce her first name, and if that is wrong, I apologize. But, like, I loved both seasons of Big Little Lies. Iconic. 9 Perfect Strangers, I very much enjoyed. But Apples Never Fall. I'm so peeved. So I binged all of Apples Never Fall in one day because I was so excited. I was like, okay, yes, this is exactly what I need right now, because we all know I did not feel well last week. Found out I have a kidney infection, so like I feel fine, but just, my back hurts. If you ever had one, you know the deal. And I'm so mad because those last 2 episodes are just awful. The ending is awful. It was such a massive letdown. There's a pivotal plot point that I won't spoil it because it's so new. But there's a pivotal plot point that to me does not make any sense, and I don't understand. I don't understand it. I'm very upset. I think the cast is great. But they did the best with what they could, and just those last 2 episodes, man, I was about to scream at my TV. So, we know, just because I don't like something, that doesn't make it bad, just because I like something doesn't make it good. So, but that's just my honest review. That's my honest take, is Apples Never Fall really miffed. So, in conclusion with today's Bailey Babbles, if you take nothing else away, proceed with caution on Apples Never Fall, and anytime you watch a movie with me, just know I will Google everything about a person. It's who I am. So, I think that that's enough babbling up top. So, let's go ahead and skip to our blog roundup for the week. So, we have a sick lineup this week. In Monday, we talked about StarKid's Hatchetfield universe, which will be our deep dive. I'm so excited to talk about it because I'm obsessed with it. We are not going to talk about how many times I've watched Nerdy Prudes Must Die or listened to the soundtrack. We're just not going to. Tuesday, we talked about Slenderman content, and again, there are definitely some disclaimers and some CWs and TWs for the content itself, so proceed with caution, and like I say in the piece, I don't think this content is for the youths. I think it's definitely for an older audience. On Wednesday, we did a Clea Duvall spotlight. Spoiler, I've loved Clea Duvall forever. Growing up, I'm queer. Like, it just kind of comes with the territory. Love Clea Duvall as an actor, writer, director, producer, everything she does. 10 out of 10. Yesterday, we talked about Monster Island, which is an MTV movie. If you are like me and you grew up in, like, the aughts, MTV went through this big phase where they did horror movies, they did all of these just weird, they took these weird turns, and one of them is Monster Island, which is an homage to, like, the giant creature features of the 50s and 60s, and it came to the forefront of my mind when we did the MTV piece, and, like, that whole piece I did on Awkward, but it's a watch, man. It's something else. And then Friday we talked about cabin horror, so like Cabin in the Woods, Cabin Fever, just that, like, isolation, foresty horror, not to be confused with isolation horror, which is a whole different thing. But yeah, I just thought it was fun, and it's we are just coming off of spring break, or some of you may just be going into spring break, so I just thought it was a fun time to bring it up. So to recap the roundup for this week, we have StarKid's Hatchetfield universe, we have Slenderman, Clea Duvall, Monster Island, and Cabin Horror, all over on the B Movies blog, which is just bmovies.blog. New pieces drop every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. CST. You can also subscribe and get those pieces sent directly to your inbox. And so that will do us for this week. So next up, we have our Bite Size Sunday. These are just tiny little reviews that live over on Instagram, which is just at bmovies channel. At bmovies channel, same as our Instagram. My brain just, like, skipped. Like, the record in my brain just skipped. And so these don't live on the blog. They only live on Instagram, and we post them around 8 or 9 CST on Sunday mornings. And so the hint for this week, which you can only get on Instagram, we don't do the hints anywhere else, or on YouTube. My brain, like, the record is just skipping up there, man. You only get these exclusive hints on YouTube. You don't get them anywhere else. And so this week's hint is Home Alone featuring Joe Swanberg. So I will let you take a guess. This, I will say, was part of my lackluster double feature on Sunday, to give you a little bit of a bigger hint. So now that housekeeping is out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this week's deep dive, which is StarKid's Hatchetfield universe. So we all know I am a big Smosh fan. That's no secret. And so Angela, StarKid, was on an episode of Try Not to Laugh to promote Nerdy Prudes Must Die. I follow Angela and several members of Smosh on Insta. And so I was really looking forward to Nerdy Prudes Must Die. I know it came out a while ago, but we all know I watch so much content that sometimes it just takes me a little bit to get to something. And so the other night, I watched Nerdy Prudes Must Die, and I was obsessed. Obsessed. Loved it. Stayed up way past my bedtime to finish it. And after I watched it, I realized that StarKid has built out this entire universe in Hatchetfield. It's kind of like Erie, Indiana, or Gravity Falls, or any of these other, Ichor Falls, like the Chris Straub universe. And I was like, hold up. So I watched Nerdy Prudes Must Die first, which it is definitely like rated R, because all of these have like a raunchiness to them. They have adult humor, but they're incredibly like well performed and produced. And so I will say these are for a little bit of an older audience. So I watched it. I'm obsessed with the songs like Dirty Girl and Bully the Bully. They will be stuck in your head forever. They're just like little earworms. And so watched it, was obsessed. Still am obsessed. And so it turns out this Hatchetfield series is centered on the town of Hatchetfield, which again, it's like Sunnydale, Gravity Falls, Erie, Indiana, like just this town where weird things happen. And it serves as this like mecca for paranormal happenings, from like eldritch horrors to alien parasitic creatures, just anything and everything. And there are countless Easter eggs throughout the different musicals. There are also reoccurring characters that will pop back up. And I'm in love with it. And so the first musical that established the Hatchetfield series, at least as far as I can tell, it's the first in the playlist, read the wiki, is The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals. And we have our title character of Paul Matthews, who must band together with like his friends from work and his crush, who is this barista at the local coffee shop, to battle these alien parasites who unalive citizens of Hatchetfield and turn them into singing and dancing, basically cast members, like an ensemble cast. And so in my opinion, I think that what this musical, it does a couple things. First of all, it's great. But I think it also kind of sets up why Hatchetfield is like a musical universe, which I think is wonderful. And it's so good. So the next up we have Black Friday, which is, in my opinion, the darkest of the Hatchetfield universe. And it serves as like this tongue-in-cheek look at consumerism. And in my like lifetime, it would be like the Tickle Me Elmo craze from '96. But it's like this eldritch horror that turns a lot of the adults and citizens of Hatchetfield into consumer-obsessed, crazed unalivers who are shopping and doing dastardly deeds in the name of their new god, who's this creature named Wiggly, who the plush in the film is named after. And in my opinion, I think that one of Angela Gartana's best, when she does, I think Fridays Are All Black for Me is what it's called. Oh my god, I was crying. It's so good. But this one's like really dark. And I will say, within the Hatchetfield universe, think of it like the Twilight Zone or horror, or like Fear itself, where there's always a catch at the end. So just keep that in mind when you're watching it, that there's always going to be something there. So then after Black Friday, there are these series. There's a Nightmare Time and Nightmare Time 2, which happened and were filmed during the pandemic. And, well, during lockdown, where COVID still exists, but during lockdown. And each of these stories present like a different type of cryptid or mythological creature or paranormal occurrence or entity that resides within Hatchetfield. And I am still making my way through these episodes because there are a lot of them, and I don't mean that, I'm very excited there are a lot of them because I love this so much. Like I'm already like chomping at the bit for the next Hatchetfield musical. But they're delightful, and I can't recommend them enough. And then, last but certainly, let's see, we have Nerdy Prudes Must Die, which is my favorite. It just, something about it, I think is my favorite. I've called it, it's like Sometimes They Come Back the musical. I love it. I think it's because, obviously, like, everything is very horror related, but to me, this is the most, like, This is a horror musical. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because we know that I like horror musicals, like Anne and the Apocalypse and things like that, and that's the vibe that this has to it. But it's just my favorite. And in Nerdy Prudes Must Die, what happens is a school bully is accidentally unalived by some of the kids he's tormenting, and then comes back to get his revenge. And it's so good. And I will say though, Nerdy Prudes Must Die, I think is the raunchiest of the musicals, but it's so good. I can't tell you how many times I've watched it. And you know, I know that StarKid birthed a Harry Potter musical and a Harry Potter sequel, which were very big when I was in college, but I've never been the biggest Harry Potter fan. You know, P.S., you know, your daily reminder that J.K. Rowling is absolute garbage. So I didn't really, I missed the StarKid train. Like, I knew who they were. I obviously watched Glee, so I knew that Darren Criss came out of StarKid. I know the lore. But this Hatchetfield series has brought me back in. It has brought me back in. I'm so excited that I have more Nightmare Times to get through, because I'm like, give me the next one. I need the next one. So please support and watch StarKid, because these musicals are phenomenal, and I can't wait to see what comes next. So that will do us for our deep dive today, and I will link our piece below. I will link to StarKid's channel, obviously, and I will link to the playlist for the Hatchetfield universe. And so next up we have our special features, which, if you're new here, this is just a section for things I may not have written about yet that I want to talk about or may not plan to write about, updates on our favorite analog horror and horror ARG series, and everything in that vein. So this week, we're gonna kick it off with the Children of the Woods film has its official trailer. It's dropped the official trailer. I'm still very excited about this project. We all know I'm a sucker for found footage, and I can't wait to see how this story shapes up. And I love the concept, and based on the trailer, it's very like a Blair Witch. That's where we are this week. Blair Witch, The Last Broadcast, The Sacrament. It seems like that type of found footage, and I'm very excited. So I'm really excited for this one, and obviously, like, I will keep updating as stuff goes along, and I do plan to watch it when it comes out. So I will definitely give my review. Next up, we have the next video in Vintage 8 Cypress Beauty Analog Horror series. Again, very excited. I love this one. So in the third installment, spoiler, things have not gotten any better. Dr. Lee is back to walk us through the third step in Circle 7, and I'm more skeptical than ever. Dr. Lee tells us that beauty is pain, and she understands that we might be in some discomfort, which is not great. That's not what you want to hear from your, you know, like, you don't want to hear that from a professional. And so we find out, like, we're taking more supplements, we're getting toxins out of our body, and then we find out that we need to lie in the sun, take a mud bath, and then, you guessed it, bathe yet again in the water from Kate's Crossing, which we know is contaminated. So that's a big ol' yikes from me. We also found out that Cypress Beauty has purchased a massive amount of land in Kate's Crossing, which is clearly, like, it's the same land from the sinkhole, or it's adjacent to the sinkhole. So yeah. Not feeling great about this beauty routine. Especially because the video ends with goodbye and the Circle 7 logo at the bottom. And so, really not feeling good about this, Vintage 8. So thank you yet again for making my skin crawl. I can't wait to see if there are more installments in this series, or if it's the last installment, but either way, it's a good one. And so, last up, for our subtitles this week, and I know I do have a follow-up because I told you I'd watch the trailer for The Crow, and I did, so we'll save that for last. So this week up in subtitles, these are just little pieces of internet news about movies, different lineups, things like that. So first up, there's a Tourist Trap remake in development that's being produced by Barbara Crampton. I'm very excited. I love Tourist Trap. I'm really excited to see how this comes to fruition, because I love Tourist Trap. Joe Dante and Roger Corman have announced a reimagining of Little Shop of Horrors that will allegedly be called Little Halloween Shop of Horrors. I've seen this reported differently on a couple different sites, so I'm going to say allegedly, but they are definitely reimagining Little Shop of Horrors, which I also huge Little Shop of Horrors fan, so I'm really excited to see how that turns out. Next up, Shudder has announced that Halfway to Halloween will return this April. It seems, I found a couple of reports, but I can't find the actual Shudder, like the video or anything for it. But it does appear, from what I can tell, Late Night with the Devil will be released on Shudder next month. But again, don't hold me to that, and I will report back once I confirm from Shudder, like once they do the announcement, because I may have missed it, but I have not seen it formally announced yet. But I've seen multiple outlets report on it. And finally, I watched the Crow trailer. Here's where I stand. Do I agree that The Crow should not have been remade? Yes. Am I very skeptical? Yes. However, something to keep in mind is that how Eric Draven looked in 1994 is going to be different than how Eric Draven looks in this 2024 iteration, because the original Crow spoke to a different zeitgeist in time. So just bear that in mind before we rip apart Bill Skarsgård to shreds. That two different pieces of time. But I do agree, I don't think The Crow should be remade. I just watched it a few weeks ago. It has that specific grittiness to it that is very 1994. But I will try to go in with an open mind. And I do agree as well that if we wanted to do some sort of revenge story, maybe have made it an original instead of a remake. So that's where I stand on it. We all know I'm gonna go see it because of who I am as a person. But yeah, so that's gonna do us for subtitles. And so the last thing I want to talk about as a little teaser for a review that is upcoming is I saw Love Lies Bleeding. And here's my take. I've seen some mixed reviews, so I don't feel as bad. I'll start with the positive of there are things I really, really liked in it. I think everyone in it was phenomenal. I think that I am very much still am attracted to women. Has been solidified. And I think the storyline is good. My issue, without giving any spoilers, and I do give spoilers in the piece, but you know how we roll. We do a jump. We do a page jump, so there's no spoilies. But I feel like, I was talking to somebody about this today. I feel like we are teased into thinking there's going to be a different type of reveal than what happens. And I feel like, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a horror fan, I feel like that there needed to be more body horror because we allude to it throughout. And there is violence in this movie. There is graphic, bloody violence in this movie. But we kind of tease like some Brian Usna-esque body horror that never has a payoff. And so that's my big thing, is I feel like the third act never quite hits its potential. And so that's my biggest qualm, is really the third act. I think that's where things needed to be tightened up a little bit. And again, I think there needed to be a different route for the reveal. So I'm going to give it a solid 7 out of 10. I didn't hate it, but I was disappointed. And especially because I love Saint Maud. I love Saint Maud. It was my favorite movie of when did it come out? 2019, 2020? It was one of my favorite movies of that year. I love Saint Maud. And so, like, I know what Rose Glass can do. And this, I wouldn't necessarily call it a sophomore slump, but to me, it just, when you have Saint Maud out of the gate, to have Love Lies Bleeding follow, it's not fair to Love Lies Bleeding, because it obviously pales in comparison, and so that's just where I stand. I also want to address, because this was also brought to my attention today, I thought I was kind of like, I was scared I was being a little, like, I was generalizing a bit, but apparently this has been an issue. Don't fetishize this movie. Don't. Don't. If you, and I hate to say it, if you're a straight man and you want to see a particular piece of content, don't go to the movies for this movie. Let's stop fetishizing things, because this, judging by some of the people that were in my theater when I went to see it, they were not there for an A24 film. They were not there to just watch a movie. They were there because there were two ladies being sexual with each other, and that was clearly why they were there. So, like, just, there's nothing wrong with, wanting to watch that type of content privately, if you catch my drift. But maybe don't fetishize this movie. That's my other takeaway. But yeah, I thought it was fine. I was just kind of let down because I was stoked for this one. Like, my brother-in-law and sisters, my sister and brother-in-law, good gravy, saw this trailer before Iron Claw, and they were like, this is a Bailey movie. And, like, I was stoked. I was ready. But then this, and then the movie that will be featured on Matt Says Sunday, they were both just kind of letdowns. And, that's the risk we take. But, again, it takes a lot to make a movie. And I will always give mad props to directors and filmmakers and cast and crew. Excuse me, because it takes a lot to make a movie. And I respect the heck out of you for doing it. But I will say it did not hit my expectations the way I wanted it to. So that was my lackluster movie experience. Also, just a reminder, please tip waitstaff. Please tip waitstaff. That's just wherever you go. Please tip your waitstaff. And just to wrap this all up, please tip your waitstaff. So yeah, so that is where I think that's all I have for y'all today. Again, it's a little bit of a shorter video. I'm recording this a couple days in advance. I usually record Wednesday, Thursday. I'm recording Tuesday, so I'm sure that the second that this video gets scheduled, there are going to be like 19 updates on everything. So just know I will cover them. So if you don't see something in this video, just know it's because I'm recording a couple days early. So on that note, I think it's time to wrap everything up. So please follow me on Instagram at Lisa_Frankenstein_. Follow Elliot at reading.with.red. There should be a B Movies book club update soon too, by the way. Follow us on Instagram at bmovies channel, same as our YouTube. Subscribe to the B Movies blog, and you can read everything just over at bmovies.blog. Also, all of these handles and our blog are linked in the description box below. And I think that will do us for this week. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Go see some wonderful movies or do something nice for yourself. And I think on that note, all that's left to do is fade to black.